going to have a different value system than men are. Is it ever okay to lie to a dying patient, for example?
I don't know whether the answer to that is a feminine or masculine answer.
Well, what do you think?
To lie to a dying patient?
Is it ever okay to go in, the patient's clearly dying, is it all right for the doctor to lie to him to give that person some sense of hope or some sense of well-being, you know?
Is there a right and wrong answer to that question?
No, there's a different answer. Precisely my point. There's a different answer.
What is Connie's answer?
Yeah, you're the woman here.
Is it ever okay to lie to a dying patient? That's the question?
That would be an example of the question.
I think that if it gives them comfort, it's okay to lie.
Okay, because comfort is your standard here. Now, Immanuel Kant, who's also one of the great thinkers, said it is never okay to lie, period, even if you save a life in the process. That was one of his absolutes. You don't lie no matter what. That's a moral imperative. Well, and there are people that believe that.
The truth shall set you free.
The Jews in my attic, okay? That's going to set Anne Frank free?
I was not supporting the concept. I was just quoting wherever it came from.
Okay. Pass the buck.
All right. Well, what would we like? We're getting close to the end of our program. What would we like the people listening to us who have heard our discussion about morality without religion? What would we like them to come away from this show with?
I think I would like them to come away with a greater interest in the topic and perhaps go to read some of the book titles you mentioned earlier in the program. Obviously, if someone has written a significant book on the topic, there's no way we can do it justice in a half-hour discussion. So Richard Dawkins is a very good writer in this area, as well as the other books that you mentioned.
But you're saying that even though they may be content with their religious morality, that you think that it would benefit them to learn more about morality without religion.
As long as that morality doesn't include shooting me.
That's true.
Well, I don't know.
Then I'm okay with them believing what
Lanny, you might tempt me.
I would like to say that I think that, as an atheist, I think that I'm probably more moral than most religionists because I don't worry about reward in heaven or punishment in hell. I live for now, today, and it is instinctive for me to know that I can't expect better treatment from other people than I dish out to them.
So that cooperation thing means something.
You bet.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have all the figures in front of me, but apparently when we're talking about morality of atheists versus morality of believers, the atheists are very underrepresented in the prisons. Very, in relation to relation to their proportion to the general society, they're very much underrepresented in prisons. I have an article here about students today in schools, how frequently they are willing to cheat and lie, and they're coming from these religious homes that this country is full of. And so I'm wondering whether
they know God forgives them.
Does religion, morality, how effective is it?
Right.
Is it a matter of do as I say, not as I do, or is it more defective than atheist morality?
Have they done some studies about whether atheists are less likely to mug people or commit fraud? I mean, do they have any studies like that?
We're a small part of the prison population, so either we were more ethical
or we got better lawyers.
We were smarter.
Right. Okay.
I don't know which.
I remember hearing Bill Moyer's interview Isaac Asimov, scientist and science fiction writer, and Isaac Asimov was an atheist, and he asked, "Where does your morality come from?" And he said, "It comes from within. It's part of my nature." And he said, "But what keeps you from raping and murdering?" And Asimov shot back with, "There's no greater group of believers in this country than you'll find on death row."
Yeah, well,
so, and I thought
they're well motivated. They're going there.
That's right.
Back to your question about whether the atheists says that secular humanists do not, he says, repeat, do not conduct crusades, inquisitions, or pogroms. They do not declare jihads or fatwas. And he says, secular humanists do not torture or kill believers simply for believing. This is from an article called Good Without God by a man named Alan Perlman.
Now, what about Genghis Khan? He was an atheist. He killed a lot of people.
I don't know anything about Genghis.
Well, there you go.
I'm sorry.
I don't think he had a religion.
Did he?
No, I don't think he
wasn't a Catholic.
Well, do we...
I think we could probably find some atheists who have done some harm in the world. You know, some of the communists. Stalin, he was an atheist. He killed a few people. I think that's a rather...
Mao was an atheist.
The Maoist, I think that's a rather thin argument, really. Just because you haven't been mugged by a secular humanist does not mean that it's not possible. Be careful when you leave here.
Yeah. And Hitler was a Catholic, so there you go.
Yeah.
Well, where does that leave us? That morality is just a matter of choice? Pick whichever one you want?
No.
Well, that's bottom line. That's what you do. You pick.
But
don't you? You have to live with yourself.
Yeah, you have to live with yourself.
You have to live with yourself.
And in the boundaries of the society.
Right. Who wants to live with Genghis Khan?
That's right. I have a little quote here that I took from a USA Today article that was about conservative atheists, which seems like a misnomer. But it said, it is doubtful that the fear of hell dissuades many people from running a red light at 3 a.m. Rather, the innate appreciation for the fragility of the social order keeps that solitary driver waiting for the light to turn green.
And that camera up there may have something to do with it, too, you know.
Well, I would, let me just, since we're getting very close to the end of our show, and as Dave indicates, probably 50% of a person's morality is taught, is learned.
At least.
And I want to read, there was a forum very recently, and this woman who's Carolyn Porco, a senior research scientist at the Space Science Institute in Boulder, Colorado, she said, we should let the success of the religious formula guide us. Dr. Porco said, let's teach our children from a very young age about the story of the universe and its incredible richness and beauty. It is already so much more glorious and awesome and even comforting than anything offered by any scripture or God concept I know. Are we inclined to agree with that?
Yes.
Then how do we go about? Because most children are being taught something different.
But see, you talk about teaching children. The word disciple has to do with setting an example.
It's exactly
we
right.
teach our children by setting examples.
Exactly.
Now, if our example is we say one thing and do something else, then that's our example.
Right.
Okay.
That's how we learn to be hypocrites.
Are secular humanists more likely to set a good example?
Yes.
A
Connie
consistent
says
example.
yes. Shall we vote on it?
I don't think voting will do any good, but a more
believe-
consistent
I'm joking
example.
with
I believe I've set an excellent example for my son.
They're not in prison,
Who is
right?
No.
Right.
Well, we've come to the end of another program, and I've found it interesting for myself, and I hope you folks who are watching also enjoyed our conversation today. Be with us again next week.